Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a topic that's, well, it's deeply personal and often really misunderstood. We're going to push aside all the noise and look directly at the science of sex, gender, and what it actually means to be transgender. So let's get right into the facts.
Yeah, words like these, in many places, they're not just words, are they? They're weapons. They are slurs thrown at people to try and dehumanize them, to shrink their entire identity down to a cruel caricature. And this all comes from prejudice and just a basic lack of understanding. But it also makes us ask a critical question.
So why? Why do some people feel this profound disconnect between the body they have and the person they know they are inside? Is it a choice? Is it just a phase they're going through? Well, the answer isn't found in opinions or arguments, it's found in biology, and that is exactly what we're going to explore. These terms and the questions that come with them really open up a deep societal puzzle. I mean, we're basically taught to look at a person's physical body and then just make a whole bunch of assumptions about who they are. But to find the real answer, we have to look deeper, because biology shows us it is so much more complex than that. So, to really understand this, we need to pull apart two fundamental concepts that always seem to get mashed together. First, you've got the physical body we're born with. You can think of it as the blueprint. And then you have the internal mind that experiences the world. That's the feeling. The blueprint versus the feeling. First up, let's define sex. In biological terms, sex is all about our physical makeup. It's the classification that's assigned at birth, and it's based on our chromosomes, our hormones, and our physical anatomy. It is, quite simply, about the body. Now let's talk about gender. This is completely different. Gender isn't about your body. It's about what's going on in your mind. It's your deep internal sense of who you are, whether that's a man, a woman, maybe a bit of both, or neither. It's a psychological and neurological reality. So let's put them side by side just to make it crystal clear. Sex is biological. It's about the body and what's assigned at birth. Gender is psychological. It's all about the mind and your internal perception of yourself. They are two separate parts of who we are. And while they often align, they don't always.
So, here it is, the most crucial point of all. For some people, the sex they were assigned at birth does not match their internal gender identity. And when this happens, that person is transgender. This isn't just a theory, it's a lived reality with a real biological basis. Now let's explore where that biology actually begins.
You know, the foundation for both our sex and our gender is laid down long before we're ever born. It all happens during our development in the womb. And this is the exact point where the paths for the physical body and the neurological mind can start to head in different directions. Our biological sex itself isn't just one simple thing. It's actually determined by a combination of at least three major factors. Our chromosomes, the hormones that wash over our developing body, and of course, our physical anatomy or gonads. And it all starts with our chromosomes. Most of us have 23 pairs. The first 22 are pretty much the same for everyone, but that 23rd pair, that's the sex chromosome. Typically, an XY pair kicks off male development, while an XX pair results in female development. That tiny Y chromosome is like the first switch that gets flipped. But, and this is a huge but, even here, biology isn't a simple binary. Natural variations like XXY can occur. These variations are known as intersex conditions, and they're proof that biological sex itself really exists on a spectrum. Now this is where the timing becomes absolutely critical. Between weeks 6 and 14 in the womb, a gene called SRY typically activates, and this determines the body's physical sex. But the brain, it develops on a completely different schedule. The neurological mapping related to our gender identity happens later, between weeks 16 and 24. These are two totally separate and distinct events. So where in the brain does this identity mapping happen? Well, a lot of research points to a specific region called the hypothalamus. You can think of it as a little control center for our hormones, our emotions, and crucially, our deep sense of self. Okay, so deep inside the hypothalamus, there's a little structure known as the BSTC region, and it shows a fascinating pattern. In cisgender men, that is, men whose gender identity matches their birth sex, this region has high activity. In cisgender women, it's low. But here's the key finding. In transgender women, this region shows low activity, matching cisgender women. And in transgender men, it shows high activity, matching cisgender men. Their brains neurologically align with their gender identity, not the sex they were assigned at birth.
Now, this whole thing is a really complex process. It's influenced by more than just one gene. You've got hormonal fluctuations in the womb, other genetic variations, and even environmental factors like exposure to certain chemicals found in plastics known as phthalates. They could all play a role in this incredibly intricate developmental dance.
So, with all this science in mind, let's just clarify the language we use to describe these different human experiences. This isn't about slapping labels on people, it's about using accurate descriptions for people's real identities.
And it's actually pretty simple. A transgender woman is someone who was assigned male at birth, but whose true gender identity is woman. A transgender man is someone who was assigned female at birth, but whose true gender identity is man.
So what about people who don't really fit into the man or woman box? Well, that's where the term non-binary comes in. A non-binary person's gender identity isn't exclusively masculine or feminine. They might feel like a mix of both, or maybe something else entirely.
Okay, and now for a very, very important clarification, because people get this confused all the time. Gender identity and sexual orientation are not the same thing. Not at all. Gender identity is about who you are. Sexuality, or sexual orientation, is about who you love.
So a transgender person can be straight, gay, lesbian, or bisexual, just like a cisgender person. For example, a transgender woman who is attracted to men is heterosexual. Her gender is woman and her sexuality is straight. The two concepts are completely independent of each other.
So, if there's just one key thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. Gender identity is not a choice. It's not a lifestyle, and it is not a social trend. The science we have shows that it's a complex, innate, biological reality that's determined long before we are born.
Look, the science gives us the what and the how. It shows us that these identities are real and that they're rooted in our biology. So the only question left is the human one. Now that you know the biology, how can you better see the humanity?